Bringing people and communities together on seclosounds.org.
Your listening station.
Have you ever wished you could just set up and travel for the rest of your life? Or for at least a year or two? Something's always holding you back, you're too nervous? Well, this week I'll speak to the Traveling Chimps who have done just that, sold up, taken their kids and then they're travelling across the USA. Find out why they did it and how they're doing it on the Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Hello and welcome to the Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. In a few moments I'll be speaking to CJ and Andrea, who are one half of the Traveling Chimps, to find out why they've sold up and they're now travelling and how they're doing it. Also later in the show, what happens if you've lost your plastic ID card for your driving licence or it's out of date. And for the eagle-eared of you who may have noticed last week I said I was going to talk about a travel story and I never did. Well, it's in this week's show and I'll explain why I didn't share it with you last week. But first, the Traveling Chimps. It's a connection that was made to me via Twitter. They connected to me and thought, oh, this looks interesting, so I wanted to find out more. They're a family of 4 who are travelling around the US, and I've contacted them over Skype to find out how they're doing it and why they're doing it. Every now and again, the Skype drops out a little bit, but you don't miss anything. It seems to restart again where we left off, if that makes sense. But anyway, it's a really interesting story and they sound a great couple. And it does sound a fun way to spend your life, basically. So here's the conversation I recorded with CJ and Andrea, who are one half of the Traveling Chimps.
So the Traveling Chimps are myself, CJ, my wife, Andrea, and then we have 2 kids as well. We have an 8-year-old son named Jack and a 6-year-old daughter named Tess.
So how long did you decide you wanted to travel across the USA?
So we decided that we were going to do this in February of this year, and we needed to give our landlord a 60-day notice. So we decided in February, we gave notice, and we hit the road. I don't know. I think the end of March, March 26th, I believe, something like that. And our first spot to hit was California. We had a house sit in a little place called Happy Camp, California. So it took us, I don't know, a little over a week to drive from Lidditz, Pennsylvania to Portland, Oregon first.
It was longer than a week because we got stuck in South Dakota for almost a week because of a snowstorm.
We did. There was a blizzard. And we got stuck in South Dakota. But the interesting thing about that is South Dakota ended up actually being one of the highlights of the northern trip across the United States.
Yeah.
Which we were kind of shocked by. We knew Mount Rushmore was there, but we stayed in Sioux Falls, which was an excellent area with really cool waterfalls, and then we hit the Badlands. Then we hit Mount Rushmore, went to Crazy Horse, which isn't far from Mount Rushmore. So actually, South Dakota was a pretty cool experience overall.
That's pretty good. So what was a typical day for your family back in January this year?
So I've kind of typically had positions over the last, 8-10 years.
Yeah.
That I pretty much traveled exclusively. I would leave Monday morning and I was, lucky to be back Friday evening. So that was a big driving factor in us kind of doing what we're doing today, is that, I was kind of missing what was going on at home. I was kind of missing all the kids' kind of first things, and so that was, kind of the driving force behind all of this.
So they were wondering who you were at the weekend. Is that what was happening?
Yeah, actually, the breaking point was my daughter said, "Where does Daddy actually live?"
That's a bit of a killer.
Yeah, and I said, "Oh, we have to change something here."
Yeah.
So that was the moment that made you decide you needed to change.
Yeah.
What was the reaction of your friends and family?
Well, overwhelmingly positive, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at first both our moms were a little confused. They kept saying, "I don't really get it. I don't get it. What are you doing?"
Yeah, they didn't understand.
Did you have any? Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, we did our first blog post about our decision to do this, and that was kind of how we unveiled this whole thing to the world. And it really, overwhelmingly was a positive response. The only negative response that I'm aware of was a friend or a client of my mother's, and she kind of made some. I think it was more of like a homeschooling sort of remarks to my mom, and then my mom didn't understand it, so my mom kind of took it kind of weird and came to me saying, "Well, I'm just not going to tell people what you're doing." And I'm thinking, well, that's a really silly way of going through life, right? I mean,
Hiding what your son's doing.
come on, it's just one person. So a week later, my mom had a friend over who is very, I don't know, new agey, I guess.
Yeah.
And we walked in the door and she was giving us hugs and telling us what a great thing we were doing. And I think that really kind of eased the tension with my mother, at least. My father, I didn't even tell him we were doing it. Yeah.
Oh dear. So everybody is quite positive, but did you have any negative thoughts of your own?
Yeah. So I think on our own, so initially, Andrea has been sort of the driving force behind the whole house sitting and pet sitting piece. And, she went on and set up these accounts with a couple different providers, I guess, or websites. And the one, I think the one we've had the most luck with is Trusted House Sitters.
Yeah.
And our first kind of foray down that, we put in for one of them. I don't even remember what it was, but we put in for a house sit, and the homeowner got back to us and said, the response has been overwhelming, and we need to take some time and go through all the applicants, and we'll get back to you. So my immediate response is, this isn't going to work.
We got a few of those too. It was like time and
Yeah.
time again. We kept applying, and we didn't find any.
Yeah. So
And they kept saying, "Oh, we've had hundreds of applicants," and we were like, "Uh-oh."
I was like, man, there's
a lot
there's a lot of competition out here. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
we just started nailing them. We just started getting them left and right. We got them to the point where we were actually
We were
turning them
down.
away.
Yeah.
Because they just didn't. Our dates were overlapping and it didn't work out. And I really think that us doing this as a family, a lot of people are comfortable with that. They know that we're not going to come into your house and destroy it or throw parties or we have kids. Now, I will say too that it's hurt us a few times too.
Yeah.
Certainly, we've had a couple where we've applied and the person said, "Well, my dog's not really good with kids, so it probably wouldn't be a good fit," which I appreciate because I'd rather not go in there and have issues with a dog. So.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Coming up, we've got Eric and Ernie.
Join me here on Seclo Sounds.
In your smile.
It's from 1975, Eric and Ernie were four...
Gary, it's not Eric and Ernie, it's Earl and Ernie, the Cape Brothers, Union Man.
Oh, I see.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Earl and Ernie.
You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Still to come on the travel show, the travel news story I said I was going to tell you last week and I never did. But definitely going to be on the end of the show. But at the moment I'm speaking to one half, or the senior half, or just the mum and dad, of the Traveling Chimps to find out how they're travelling across America and where they're staying. We talked about making the decision and any negative thoughts that they may have had, and how their friends and family reacted. Now we're going to start off by talking about what sort of planning was involved. So when you were putting all this together, Andrea found the websites and stuff, but what other planning did you do and what resources did you use to plan your trip across the country?
Well, I think we went to My Scenic Drives to find like a route to go to get us to Happy Camp. And that let me put in like all different spots where I knew we would want to stop and let the kids see and sightsee and things like that. So that was fantastic because it gave us a big guideline of how to get across and being able to stop where we wanted to stop. And then we used Priceline Express deals like crazy to get us from that one destination to the next.
Before you set off, did you have a list of top 5 goals about what you wanted to achieve when you did this trip?
Not really, to be real honest with you. We knew that we needed to be across the country to California by whatever date it was to do our first house sit. Other than that, though, we really kind of fly by the seat of our pants. Most days in between house sits when we're driving, most days we don't even know where we're going to sleep that night until 6, 7 o'clock, maybe an hour before we actually check in.
Yeah.
So no, but that's an excellent question because I mean I really feel like people probably should set goals and write goals down so work towards them to accomplish them. But I mean to be real honest with you, we didn't really have that.
Well, I think one of our goals is to break out of the box, to break out of the mold of 9 to 5 and buying a house and buying more stuff and more stuff and more stuff.
Yeah.
For what?
That's true. Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
I think we wanted to pay more attention to having experiences in our life and enjoying our kids and breaking out of the mold of all that and of everybody telling us you have to do this, you have to, buy a house and have all this fancy cars and
really
go to work to buy more stuff. We didn't want to do that anymore.
Right. I mean, we really we don't want to wait till we retire to go see the world. We want to see the world now while we're able and capable of actually really exploring it, So, I mean, we were in Grand Canyon, and I remember having a conversation with an older gentleman from Pittsburgh. Awesome guy, but he was having breathing issues, and he wasn't able to walk out onto the little peninsula there to get a real bird's eye view of the canyon. And I felt really bad about that.
Well, he said it too. He said you should do it now.
Yeah.
While you're young and able to, go experience everything you can and have all the stamina you have. He said, I wish I did that instead of waiting.
Yep, I agree. Do it all now.
Yeah.
I once saw a documentary, going a little bit off track, about French families. A lot of French families sell up and buy a yacht and sail around the world with their kids just so their kids can experience different cultures and stuff, and that's always seemed a really cool thing to do.
Yeah, that's an excellent thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a pretty good following on social media and whatnot, and there's a number of people doing that exact thing, and I think that's awesome. Really
I think that's
awesome.
our next thing too, is to leave the United States and go explore other places so that our kids can see other ways of life and other cultures and just to experience life. I mean, there's more to life than just this one spot.
Yeah, yes, definitely. You've already said you've had one surprise with the Sioux Falls and South Dakota, you said, didn't you?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Has there been any other surprises that have caught you out since you left in February?
Yeah, there has. So as much as we fly by our pants, sometimes that is kind of bit us in the butt, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So in
It's
one
fun,
instance-
but sometimes you
Yeah.
need to plan a little bit.
Yeah, so I guess when there's big things that we want to go witness or check out, I think we need to do a little bit better job of researching it. And why I say that is one of our big stops on our first trip across the United States was to stay in Yellowstone. So we left Rapid City, South Dakota, and we headed for Cody, Wyoming to stay the night there. And that was, I don't know, just outside of the eastern gate of Yellowstone. So we check in at like 11 o'clock at night, and I
late.
I say to the kid, I call him a kid. He was an older guy. To this old guy as I'm checking in, he's like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, we're going to go to Yellowstone tomorrow." And he said, "Sir, Yellowstone's closed." I'm like, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, it's snowed closed. That's not going to open. The roads aren't going to open for another 4 weeks."
He said the road is covered with 15 feet of snow. Unless you have a snowmobile with you, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere. So basically, we drove to Cody, Wyoming to go to Yellowstone for absolutely no reason.
Yes. So we never made it.
No? Well,
Nope.
still plenty of time.
Exactly.
yeah,
we'll
we'll
make
go
our way
back.
back.
We'll
But
make our
still,
way
that
back.
was our one thing. Like, we love flying by the seat of our pants and just waiting to see what happens and finding things.
Well, we had a
But-
similar experience at the Grand Canyon as well.
Yeah.
We drove to the North Rim thinking that we were just going to basically make a right-hand turn and drive straight down the canyon.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works. You have to
No.
drive about 8 hours around the top of the canyon to go down to the other end of the canyon. So again, we didn't do any research, just flying by the seat of our
Yeah.
pants. And
We
it
drove
bit
a
us.
few hours in the wrong way.
Well, you got to see somewhere new, didn't you? So it's not.
Oh,
Yes,
it
and
was
we ended up
fun.
seeing lots of animals we wouldn't have seen.
Absolutely, yeah.
But sometimes some things surprise us that are great. We were driving on the California coast, and CJ just spotted something out of his corner of his eye, so we pulled off the highway, and there was thousands of elephant seals all beached on the coast right there, right beside you, and there was just millions of them. It was incredible, and they were making all these noises, and it's just fantastic.
Which makes for an incredible road schooling opportunity for the kids.
Yeah, it beats watching it on YouTube, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. We'll be hearing more from Andrea and CJ in a few moments, but first, some advice about something I came across last week, and I came across it for the first time. I come across something for the first time last week. See, I don't know everything, even after over 10 years in travel. You hired a car, you're going on holiday, but your plastic ID card of your licence is out of date, you haven't renewed it. You've either missed the renewal notice or you've just been too busy to get it done. What happens? Well, it's not all doom and gloom. You can get round it depending on the hire car company and whether they will take it or not. Some hire car companies will take the paper licence and other photo ID to prove who you are, so you can get round it that way. If they won't take the passport as part of your ID, you can contact the DVLA and get what's called a certificate of entitlement, which proves that you do actually hold a full driving licence and how long you've had it for. There is a fee for this. The DVLA fax it to the hire car company, and perhaps the hire car company will take that too. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it does depend on what the hire car company will do. And even if the hire car company does have a policy, it does depend on the person that you're dealing with, either on the phone or when you get to the hire car place. So what do I suggest? Well, obviously a month before you go away, check your passport is okay and check your driving licence is okay. If you haven't, and you've found out last minute, driving licences take a week to 2 weeks to come. So if you leave it until the last minute, you've got no chance. Just find out from the hire car company if they would accept your passport or the certificate of entitlement. If they say no, or the tour company you're using who booked the hire car company say no, it might be just the fact that the person you're speaking to doesn't really understand what all these the alternative methods are, and they're just playing safe by saying no. So if you get a no, speak to a supervisor, ask them. I've spoken to other travel agents on forums and they all knew about this, so this isn't a rare occurrence, the certificate of entitlement. They do get sent quite a lot. And for the DVLA to actually have something ready and to send off to people shows that it is a common occurrence. Also, you need to make sure that your car insurance is actually valid when you're at home, because you could have been driving with invalid car insurance by not having a valid ID. So you need to check that too. But don't worry, try it. If it doesn't work, change hire car company, go with somebody else. Of course, booking last minute could mean the prices go up, but at least you can still go. What happens if you get stopped by the police abroad? They might not know what a certificate of entitlement is. Well, again, they can contact the DVLA, providing it's open, and they can talk to them about your right to drive. Of course, if you get stopped in the evening, who knows what's going to happen. So once again, a month before you go away, check your passport, check your driving licence, make sure they're both up to date. If not, well, there are ways around it, but don't panic, just see what you can do. And if the person you first speak to says no, speak to a supervisor, and if they say no, then just try a different company. If you've actually tried this and you've had problems with, you've not had a plastic ID card for your driving licence because it's out of date or you've lost it, and you've used this in certificate of entitlement, please share your story at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show to let everybody know how easy it is to use this. Or if you haven't, or if you have, sorry, and they wouldn't, the travel company or the hire car company wouldn't allow you to use it, well, name and shame, facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show.
This is Seklo Sounds. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. for 1 hour in the company of Harry and Edna on the wireless, exploring all aspects of the vintage scene and playing tip-top gramophone tunes. Harry and Edna on the wireless, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on seklosounds.org. Jolly good.
My name's Teresa Kelleher. Join me on Seklo Sounds every Wednesday at 8 p.m. for my show Inspired by Jazz. Each week I'll take you on a journey as I feature the music, the maestros and the melodies. That's Inspired by Jazz with me, Teresa, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on Seklo Sounds.
You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seklosounds.org. Well, back to the Traveling Chimps. It's a recording of a chat I had with Andrea and CJ late last week. We've talked about why they're travelling, how they're travelling, where they're staying, and we talked about a surprise they came across on the beach with all the sea lions, and what a great experience it is. And then we slightly touched on the road schooling. We've already been told that their kids are 8 and 6, so perhaps you're wondering about how they're being educated. So we're now going to move on to, well, how the kids are being educated.
So we call it road schooling for whatever that's worth.
Right.
So basically, we try to hit any national park that's in our path. All the national parks have a junior ranger program. So the kids get a book, basically, or a workbook, and they have to go through and work through all these problems by touring the facilities or the areas and
attend an event.
Attend events, and a few times our kids have actually participated in those events. And then at the end of the day, they bring the book back to the rangers and they swear them in as junior rangers, and they get badges and pins and all this cool stuff. And I always joke with our kids, like, just going to one of those events is probably, or one of these parks is probably more than you would learn in 6 months at public school in America. So so we call it road schooling.
And we learn about, like, when I know we're going to be hitting something, we learn about it before we get there. And so each state that we went to, we learned about the state before we got to that state, and then the particular things we were going to do. So if we were going to see, when we went to Dallas, we went to see the JFK assassination. So my son was very interested, and we learned all about JFK. And so we just do that. We just, as we see things, that's what we're going to learn about.
So all four of you are getting an education then, really?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm finding I'm learning more and more every day.
You know what? It's the power of the internet as well. I mean, we were driving through New Mexico, and there was a sign for Billy the Kid country. So my son's like, "Who's Billy the Kid?" Oh my God, you got to wiki that one. So we, Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, we spent
We're reading about
5
it for
hours
hours.
talking about Billy the Kid.
Right. What are the authorities like in America about taking your kids out of school? Over here, it would be a real problem trying to sort it out. Is it quite easy?
It depends on the state.
Yeah, it depends. Each state has its own regulations. It is quite difficult in most of the states to do it.
So technically, we live in Texas.
Okay.
And Texas is very lenient with it. So I think there's 3 or 4 states. I think it's
They're a little more lenient than others.
Florida, South Dakota, and Texas. And I know there's more than that, but off the top of my head, I know that those 3 are fairly lenient. A lot of the other states have, a lot of requirements. You still have to show a lot of proof of curriculum and things like that. And sometimes the kids have to still go in and do tests. And we really wanted to get away from the whole testing system. We really think that that's a flawed and broken way of educating our students.
It's failing our kids.
You just learn to pass tests, don't you? You don't really learn, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yes, and the system has gone downhill, and they're teaching to test, which is a shame because that's what they're doing. They're just learning to memorize for the test, and then it's done. They don't really get any actual learning out of it.
No, I believe it. I don't have kids of my own, but I believe it's getting quite like that over here. Well, it is if you read the press anyway.
Yeah,
right.
It's all about getting the schools at the top of the table so that the
Yes.
schools look good.
That's all this.
That's what is
no
here,
child
too.
left behind nonsense.
Yeah. So we wanted to actually educate our kids.
Sounds like they're definitely getting that.
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty sure from your blog you bought a hybrid car, is that right?
We
Yeah.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things we've tried to do is really kind of be as green as we can at this.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't lie too, it actually, it saves us a lot of money with the gas mileage we get too. I mean, that was definitely a big part of it. But, even in the blog, like, we address, being sustainable and green, and we wrote a piece about, the top tips to travel green, and our website is hosted on a web host that's a green web host called Green Geeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I just moved our site over to that. I don't know, a couple days ago.
Okay.
The hybrid's been good on gas, but the kids do complain a lot about it being tiny.
Yeah, it's small. I mean,
They wish they had a little more room, because with them and the dog, it gets tight.
Yeah. So
And taking all our belongings with us.
we basically each get a duffel bag, and so I got about 6 changes of clothes.
Can you just strap them to the roof?
The kids or the clothes?
The kids.
They probably like that, actually.
Or you could FedEx them to where you're going, and then they can be there waiting for you.
There would be a lot less complaining then, I
Yeah,
think. I wouldn't have to
absolutely.
listen to it.
Yeah. Are we there yet?
So how many miles have you put on the car since you started?
Over 11,000.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 11,000 miles. So that's Pennsylvania to California back to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in Florida currently until
September.
middle of September.
Hurricane season.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the only reason we came.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm forever going to the Caribbean in hurricane season to try and see a hurricane, and I've never seen one.
Yeah. we actually got married in the Caribbean during
hurricane season. Yep.
Yeah.
We just missed
missed one.
it.
Dismissed it. I know they're really dangerous and stuff, but I'm a travel consultant, so I'd like to know what it's like so I can tell people how well they're going to be looked after.
Yeah.
We've been through some. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. Maybe one day I'll find one.
I'm sure you will.
You can contact us or just keep up to date with travel news at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show.
This is Seclo Sounds, your community radio station. If you'd like to volunteer some of your time and skills with Seclo Sounds, send an email to volunteers@seclosounds.org and let us know how you would like to be involved. MK Flyers Online, the fast and simple way to find any kind of business or service locally. Find us at mkflyersonline.co.uk or download the MK Flyers mobile app from your app store. MK Flyers Online proudly supports Seclo Sounds, community radio for Milton Keynes.
The John Guinn Travel Show. Checking it out before you check in on seclosounds.org. I'm still talking to Andrea and CJ, the Traveling Chimps. We've talked a lot about their journey so far, which they decided in February. Some of the mistakes that's happened because they haven't planned, some of the things they found because they haven't planned, and also about the road schooling, how they're educating their children. But now we're going to move on to about the house sitting and how they find places to sleep, because obviously they're on a budget and it is important to get this right. So let's find out a little bit more. So you're house sitting and you're looking after people's homes and their pets and stuff.
Yeah.
Has there been any evenings, any nights where you've actually had nowhere to stay because you haven't quite got it times right?
Yeah, there have been. And so, that's when we just quick get on our phones, grab our Priceline. He has a Priceline app on his, and we just look for an express deal as close as we can to wherever we are, and we just head in for the night.
Okay.
The excellent thing about that as well is, we travel with our bulldog, so that app is kind of nice because we can filter for pet friendly hotels.
Yeah, because sometimes they can be hard to find.
Yes, they definitely are, aren't they?
Yeah, so we with the little filter, it just brings up ones that are pet friendly, and we've had great luck with it.
Yeah, we actually have.
That's good. I'm glad that's working, because when I've been looking for hotels for customers, it's been very difficult to find somewhere that'll take their dog.
Yeah.
Especially then sometimes even if they do, then they attack on like huge fees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to be careful with that because some of them will say they're pet friendly, and then you show up and they're like, "Yeah, it's $100 for the night for your dog." That's Marriott.
Yeah.
does that.
We stopped using places like that.
Yeah, you stay away from them.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Which is interesting because I was like a platinum member of them.
Yeah, because of
Was
his
you?
well, because of his work he was, but
They
now we're like
travel so much.
boycotting them for the pet policy.
Yeah.
Okay, you'd have to get some bumper stickers put up for that. Is there anything you would have done differently now you've done a few months than what you thought you were going to be doing?
Well, I mean, probably just like what I was talking about with the Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon. Maybe just kind of researching some of the things a little bit better. As much as we love to fly by the seat of our pants, because it's really a lot of
the
fun.
important things we know we want to see, we should actually try to, make sure we can go there.
Make sure we can actually get down the road.
Yeah, and then when we had when we were in California, we got another house sit in between California and Florida. And it fell through while we were on our way, and we were rushing to get to it from California to New Mexico. And when it fell through, we kept rushing. I think we should have slowed down and just relaxed.
Yeah. We ended up going to San Francisco and only spending like one day.
Yeah, one day.
And I wrote about it on the blog. We actually saw an incredible amount of stuff for one day.
We tried to pack it all in.
We kind of saw all of San Francisco in one day, but I think if we could have done it differently, we probably would have slowed down at that point and maybe spent 3
at that
days
point
there
we knew that the other one was canceled. So
yeah.
What are your plans for the rest of the year?
We have no idea.
Nope.
So we're here in Florida till September, and then we've been kind of watching the Trusted House Sitter sites and a couple other sites. We also kind of have this idea of maybe doing. Have you ever heard of woofing? So woofing, and I can't remember what the acronym is now, but it's basically you can volunteer at organic farms all over the world.
Oh, okay.
So you stay at the farm and you work on the farm, and in return they give you a place to stay and they give you food. So we've been thinking about maybe, I don't know, going to Africa and do that, or go across Europe doing that. And they literally have them over the entire Ireland we were talking about maybe doing. So we have no idea. I think we're really leaning towards leaving the country and showing our kids some other cultures for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe England. Maybe we'll come see you and stay. Maybe we'll come stay at your house.
We're gonna make it 125 people.
Yeah, it'll be 100.
Oh, I don't know. The locals are pretty weird, but yeah, you're more than welcome.
No, I find with the house sitting though, we kind of just have to wait it out. Like as much as it gives you anxiety not knowing where you're going next. Sometimes you just have to do that because a lot of people don't put their house sits up till a few weeks before they're gonna leave.
It's pretty incredible how last minute people post.
So a lot of people are just posting house sits right now for August, which to me is crazy, but that's what most people do. So we're not going to be out of here till September, so we won't know where we're going for a little bit.
Yeah, it does seem strange leaving it until the last minute. I could never do that.
I couldn't either, especially with pets and stuff. I don't know, but a lot of people do it, so I'm not sure. We're open to anything. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah, do you have any ideas for us? Or?
No, when you're talking about volunteering, my wife had a significant birthday a couple of years ago, and we ended up volunteering in an animal sanctuary in Namibia. In Namibia, I mean, you have to be over 18 because you're working with leopards and cheetahs and stuff. It was a bit too dangerous for kids.
Wow.
But it was the best 2 weeks ever. It seems like it was last year, but it was actually 4 years ago now. It was great.
Cool, man.
That sounds fantastic.
And you just meet such great people there because you're all there for a reason, and it's well worth trying anyway.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking. So that's why we were kind of gearing towards, leaning towards doing the farming or something, because we know that the kids are welcome, and it'll be something fun for them, and they can watch things grow. And
I'd like to show the kids where their food comes from.
Yeah, that might be a shock for them. You never know.
It might be.
So will this journey ever end? Or are you going to be going on forever?
I don't know how to answer that. At the moment, we're really enjoying ourselves. The kids are enjoying themselves. So at the moment, I don't see an end at the moment.
I think when people usually ask us that question when we're out and about and they ask what we're doing, I just say until it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a
So
good
when
answer.
it's not fun anymore, I'll think of what to do next.
That's
Or
a
when-
good reason to stop.
Yeah.
People don't do that at their jobs, do they? They sit there and suffer with it.
They do.
Well,
They're-
exactly.
Yeah, they're
And you only
sitting
have
in
one life
cubicles.
to live, and is that the way you want to live? The one life you
Yeah.
have every single day?
Yeah, sitting
I
in-
don't.
Sitting in a cubicle under artificial light all day. you
Yeah,
know?
I want to have fun and teach my kids that life can be fun and interesting, and there's more to life than just sitting at a desk and buying new things. And
You know, I will say though that, you know, after kind of participating in all the social media stuff with Traveling Chimps, that there's a lot of people out there doing this. There's really a lot of people
Yeah.
out there doing similar stories, you know?
it was surprising how many more families were out there than I thought there would be.
Yeah, I really feel like, and I don't know if it's like this in the UK, in the United States, it really is starting to feel like there's a little bit of an awakening going on, that people
Yeah.
are
There's a
really
little
kind of
shift.
sick of the way things are going right now, and they want to kind of change the norms.
There's a little bit of that, not much, a tiny little bit. Over here at the minute, we've got a problem with taking kids out of school during term time.
Mm-hmm.
And some parents have ended up going to prison because they took the kids out of school to go on holiday.
Really?
Ridiculous.
And heavy fines and stuff. Over here, the prices go up during the school holidays a lot. So people can't afford to travel, so they travel when they shouldn't, and then they get in trouble legally. So,
That's crazy.
That's a shame.
That's crazy.
yes, it's not
So
good.
there's not a lot of homeschooling going on in the UK, or
Not much. It's all frowned upon about.
wow.
They have
Really?
to have natural. They have this national curriculum where they have to pass these exams and get these qualifications.
Right.
And but I'm sure an expert from England would better tell you more. But
Yeah.
from what I understand, it just seems really complicated.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We'll have to move to Texas.
Yeah.
That's
Come
right.
to Texas with us.
You've mentioned your blog a few times, so how would we find out more about how you're getting on?
So the Traveling Chimps, travelingchimps.com is our blog. We also have Twitter at Traveling Chimps, Facebook Traveling Chimps. We have a YouTube channel, Traveling Chimps. So,
Do you see the theme?
yeah, we got a theme going on. So
I did notice one.
Yeah, we're kind of representing on all the different social medias, and you know, I try to do a blog. You know, I try to do one every week, but I've you know, can't say I've done a great job of that. But I'm actually working on a blog right now about volunteering, traveling and volunteering. So it's interesting that you brought that up. So that's probably the best way. Travelingchimps.com. On the right-hand side, you can put in your name and your email address, and you can join our newsletter, and we'll keep you informed about any new vlogs or blogs. We're also going to start a podcast next week, we're hoping. So we'll be posting those on the blog as well, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best for the rest of your travelling, and I hope it goes well and you don't end up going somewhere that's closed.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate
We've learned
that.
our lesson with that one.
Yeah. Appreciate you having us on. This was great.
No problem.
Hi, this is Russell Hearn. Join me Fridays at 12 for a little pick-me-up. I'll be playing the music that stirs those warm memories and takes you to a special time and place. And Minnie's here with her choice of fun apps for your phone too. So for a lighter look at life and some songs you'll never forget, tune in to seclosounds.org for some happy radio.
You can contact us or just keep up to date with travel news at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. So to find out more about the Traveling Chimps, it's travelingchimps.com for the blog, and you can search for Traveling Chimps on Facebook and Twitter as well. But what you need to remember is it's the American spelling of travelling, there's only one L. So remember that when you're doing your search. They said that they were using trustedhousesitters.com to help find houses where they can go and sit. But what I forgot to ask about when we were having the chat is whether they're the sort of house sitter that charges a fee or not. So I forgot to ask, bad me, how do they have an income while they're doing all this travelling? Some house sitters sit free of charge for the chance to stay somewhere for a holiday, and others are professionals. So it's up to you if you want to do this, whether you're going to do it for a short period of time just to have a holiday, or whether you want to do it professionally and have a above and beyond service for house sitting, and then you discuss that with the house owners. So housesitters.com and travelingchimps.com for the blog to find out more how CJ and Andrea and Jack and Tess are getting on. And don't forget, it's travelling with just the one L. In my book, well, what's the point of having a travel show on a radio station if you can't plug your own book, the Travel Researcher's Guide? I've got a chapter on alternative accommodation. So rather than you having to go out and buy the book, I'm just going to go through that now to give you some ideas about how you can do house sitting to have somewhere to go on holiday and alternative websites other than trustedhousesitters.com. House sitting may not be new to you. You might have seen the rom-com The Holiday, where two women swap houses for Christmas because they're having man problems. They want to get away from everything. So one ends up in a great massive mansion in America and the other one's in a little country cottage. But that's house sitting. That's house swapping. So you can just swap homes and have a holiday somewhere else. An article in the Daily Telegraph predicted that 1.6 million people would be swapping homes to save the cost of a holiday. And there is a website to prove that, but it's a really long one, so if you want to know what the website is, Google Daily Telegraph house swapping or buy my book, The Travel Researcher's Guide. There's also the option of a more basic type of home exchange. This is where you put up the other member of the organisation as a house guest. So you're not swapping, they're coming around to stay. So there's two types. There's hospitality exchange, where you take it in turns to be a host and a house guest, or couch surfing, where there's no requirement for you to return the favour. Don't worry, couch surfing is just a term. You may actually be staying in the spare bedroom on a proper bed and not necessarily on the sofa. But before you do any of this house sitting, house swapping, home exchange, try your best to find out more about the person you're going to be swapping, exchanging, putting up. There is references, there are reviews of people. It's tough when you're new to the website trying to get people to accept that you're trustworthy, so you can make use of social media and things like Skype to actually get to know the person before you have the break. So I'm going to go through a few alternative accommodation websites now. The first one is airbnb.co.uk. This is a community marketplace for people to list and book unique accommodations around the world. It can be an apartment for the night or a villa for a month. And when I put this together, they reckon to offer more than 19,000 cities in 192 countries. There are places where Airbnb may not work for you. For example, in America, in New York, there's a legal battle going on about whether it's actually legal for people to rent their accommodation out in New York City to people without paying tax and without doing all the other stuff that hotels have to stump up for. So with any alternative accommodation, do make sure you're fully up to date with the legal aspect. I mean, there's no point travelling halfway around the world to find out that, sorry, no, from yesterday you can't actually stay here. So that's one thing to bear in mind. For couch surfing, well, obvious website, couchsurfing.com. We've already talked about what that can be. There's another one called Genie, which is www.geenee.com. And it's got a free membership scheme, so you can go on there and look at doing couch surfing and swapping and whatnot. www.freeloaders.com, where you can, again, go to somebody's house, they put you up, and you can share the local environment from a local's perspective. Actually, I'm starting to share far too much than I anticipated, and if I go through the whole chapter, I'm not going to be able to get that news story in I promised I was definitely going to share with you this week. So skipping ahead a little bit, for working holidays, there are plenty of websites for you to use as well. One of them is www.workaway.info. and it's set up to promote the fair exchange between budget travellers, language learners, or just culture seekers or families, individuals or organisations who are looking for help for a range of varied and interesting activities. This doesn't have to be like the one I did in Namibia from its dawn till dusk. It's 6 days a week. This could be a few hours work a day in exchange for food and accommodation. www.workingabroad.com is another one, and WWOOF, it's the worldwide network of organisations that links volunteers with organic farmers, which is one CJ mentioned. It's www.wwoof.org if you're looking to work abroad there too. And finally, for those who want to volunteer, another good website to look at is www.globalvolunteers.org, which gives you service learning, travel opportunities so you can participate in short-term projects, get to experience living somewhere new, and help that area become better served with some ways, such as water or accommodation or meeting rooms or whatever there is. Whatever your skills can be put forward for, there'll be something for you to do. If you know anybody who's actually doing this sort of thing and you want me to share their story on the show, let me know, facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show, or just connect to me on @holiday_hut, or to let me know what their Twitter account is, and I can go on from there. If you've done it yourself and you want to share your experiences, good or bad, again, facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. I'm going to stop this now so I can make sure I get the travel news in. You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Seclo Sounds exists to bring people and communities together to celebrate all that's best about the city of Milton Keynes. We produce a variety of music and speech programs, and you've heard some of the promos in this show, and we're produced by local people and run by over 60 volunteers. However, there's always room for more, so if you have a program idea or a skill that you want to offer, please send us an email to volunteers@seclosounds.org. And of course, as we're all volunteers, we can't operate without the help from our partners, and one such partner is Interaction. Seclo Sounds is based at the old rectory, which is the home of Interaction MK. They've been bringing arts to life in Milton Keynes for over 35 years. They use the arts to improve the life chances of disabled people and others in challenging circumstances through shared created activity. Their programs help participants to develop creative, personal and social skills. To find out more, please visit them at www.interactionmk.org.uk. You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. And now for the travel news. I'm going to be sharing that story I should have shared with you this week. After all the build-up, you might find it disappointing. But anyway, here it is. It's been pointed out to me that during last week's show I trailed a news story, but when it came to the travel news section I didn't actually talk about the story. That's because I shared more than I had planned to when it came to complaining about your holiday. I had a plan, but my mouth got away with me and I shared more than I wanted to. So I'm going to talk about this story this week. And the reason I was going to share it last week is because travel news is always full of coincidences. I mean, a few weeks ago I contacted various news outlets about stress-free travel for the school holidays, which I did cover. And after I did that, loads of media outlets actually covered how to travel stress-free for the school holidays. But to be fair, none of the companies that I contacted actually covered it, which shows what a bad judge of travel news stories they are. And I now know who to contact next year. But after I put the travel complaints notes and script together, a press release popped up, and it was from a law firm detailing the top 5 worst travel hotspots for complaints in 2013. So I thought, well, that was too good to miss. But I did. The travel firm that's released this is Irwin Mitchell, and they've been having a legal team which fights for travel holiday makers for a few years now. And Irwin Mitchell have listed the worst 5, as I said, and for the 4th year in a row, cruises have come top. It's no secret for those who've listened to the show over the last 2 years that my worst ever travel experience was on a cruise ship. But it can't always be that bad. I mean, lots of people have a great time. But 4 years in a row is some doing. Cruises accounted for almost 27% of the cases dealt with by Irwin Mitchell's specialist lawyers, with Turkey 17%, Egypt 15%, Dominican Republic 12%, and Spain 10%, making up the rest of the top 5. The law firm had represented thousands of holidaymakers and recovered millions of pounds for them over the 20 years they've been having their specialist law section, travel law section, so they know what they're talking about. And they say that most of the problems reported to them now are due to inadequate health, hygiene and food standards. And they're repeating their calls for tour operators to do more to ensure that hygiene standards are improved in failing hotels and onboard substandard cruise liners. As well as family holidays, tourists have suffered ruined honeymoons, wedding anniversaries and birthday celebrations. And many of those who were seriously ill have required hospital or other emergency medical treatment once they got home. The honeymoon thing reminds me of a honeymoon couple I bumped into last week at Luton Airport. They were a bit unhappy because they couldn't sit next to each other on the plane, and they're even more unhappy when their flight got delayed for 4 hours, but that's just bad luck. Holiday makers, the press release goes on to say, have suffered confirmed illnesses such as Salmonella and E. coli, and the lawyers say from their experience it appears that many incidents could and should have been avoided with better hygiene standards. A spokesperson for the law firm said that the same issues such as poor food preparation, storage and unclean swimming pools were responsible for the majority of the illness cases that they dealt with. She went on to say that it's worrying that many of the destinations, and indeed many of the individual hotels and cruise liners that featured, had actually popped up before in the past, and that the law firm is especially concerned with the number of cruise passengers still falling ill on board cruise liners. They say that tour operators and cruise line operators need to recognise their responsibility to customers to ensure that appropriate standards of hygiene, health and safety are maintained. So, I've already listed them, but let's talk about the top 5 individually. So the worst one was cruises, which technically is not a destination, but it has topped the complaints list for the past 4 years, and shows no sign of letting up, with several prominent outbreaks on board popular cruise ships. The law firm has currently represented passengers involved in group actions against cruise operators following cruises aboard Island Escape, Bodicea, Oriana and Thompson Dream, and there's others as well. The law firm is also representing a number of victims of the Costa Concordia disaster, because they're still suffering from psychological effects of the tragedy. Number 2 is Turkey, and Turkey has featured on the list several times in recent years, and holiday makers in 2013 have complained about problems such as the well-publicised outbreak of gastric illness at the Perisiana Hotel, which liability investigations are continuing, and the position on liability is awaited. Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh and the Red Sea are popular destinations for holiday makers, which pretty much warm all year round. But many tourists are returning home for more than they bargained for, despite a high number of the resorts actually being 4 or 5 star hotels and should be top notch. Guests at the Holiday Village and Fun City are amongst those taking legal actions after their 2013 holidays, and their claims are being investigated by both Irwin Mitchell and the tour operators that sent the holiday makers there. Dominican Republic, and it's returned to the list after an absence of a few years. There's been many cases of holiday makers travelling further afield to get their holidays, and Dominican Republic's always been a popular destination, as it is the cheapest Caribbean destination to get to. A number of the resorts at the Dominican Republic boast of being luxurious and are often 4 or 5 star hotels. However, Irwin Mitchell confirmed there's been an increase in illness cases reported to them, especially at a few hotels where there's been a large outbreak of gastric illness during the summer of 2013, which included E. coli. The tour operator sending people to this hotel continues to investigate these claims, and the position on whether liability admitted or denied is still awaited. And finally, Spain, still a popular destination for people, came in and completes the top 5. It's the most popular destination, so there's bound to be loads of complaints. And so it's always probably expected to be in the top 5. In 2013, the law firm were contacted by holidaymakers after suffering from suspected gastric illnesses, which is a blast from the past because the same hotel was a problem in 2003. When back then, the law firm recovered millions of pounds in damages for almost 1,900 holidaymakers. These new claims are still being investigated by the law firm and the tour operator. So it's a bit concerning that illness is still a big problem when you go abroad. So when you go away, do take care. Always wash your hands before handling food and after food. Don't have water unless it's bottled, unless you're really sure. Don't have ice. Don't have a washed salad, which is a problem because I'm a vegan. What else am I going to eat? Do take care. And if you have any illness, get some advice straight away to make sure you can minimise any effects. If you complained about your hotel resort for being ill over the last few years, please do share your story at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. Let us know what the problem was, how you dealt with it, how the problem was dealt with by the tour company. Did you take legal action? If you did you win, and what did you win? And if you have any advice on how to avoid the same thing happening to you in the future, so facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Well, that's the end of another travel show on Seclo Sounds. I hope you found the conversation I had with CJ and Andrea interesting. I did. Sound a fun couple, and I hope what they're trying to do works out really well. And I think the kids are going to really enjoy the road schooling. They're going to learn an awful lot more about life, I feel, than sitting in a classroom. Don't forget, you can find out more about them at travelingchimps.com, travelling with 1L. And if you want to know more about that, I'm planning to get them back on the show in a few months, so send your questions to me, facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show, and I'll ask them next time, or of course you can just make contact and ask them direct. It's up to you. If there's anything you'd like covered on the show, let me know on the Facebook page, and I'll do my best to get it covered. If there's a particular tour company you want me to talk to, or a destination you want to find out more about, facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. And I hope you can join me next time on the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org, where each week I'll be checking it out before you check in.
MK Pulse proudly sponsors Seclo Sounds. MK Pulse is Milton Keynes' local magazine, bringing helpful information on food, health, fashion, money, travel, culture, and much more to 66,000 readers every month. Plus news, views, and what's on from around the city. If it's happening in Milton Keynes, it's in MK Pulse, and it's available online at www.mkpulse.co.uk. MK Pulse and Seclo Sounds, the heart and soul of the city.